Welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 183, special guest Victoria Cartagena. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Good morning and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host, and I'm here today in 818 Studios with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 183 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, I hope you had a great weekend, and I welcome you here to it's Christmas season,
Yes.
and we're deep into it, and I am ready for it. Even here in Florida, where it's sunny and Christmassy, it's a cloudy day, and me and Shannon are thinking, it feels Christmassy today because it's cloudy. But we're so happy to have you joining us for today's episode.
Yes, and today is a very special day. So we are nearing the year end, and we thought we'd end the year beautifully with a wonderful guest, someone who's become an acquaintance and even I would call a friend, the actress Victoria Cartagena. And Victoria, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, wow. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me. You're talking about Christmas and gifts, and this is such a gift for me. I just love this time of year, and to be speaking with you today, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Well, I've wanted to have you on the show for a while, and I'm really glad you could make it. What's been so great in getting to know you is learning. I feel like I got a little bit of the inside scoop on your career, and it's been really fun to get to know you and to support your journey. And for our listeners, I felt like I wanted to just have them hear a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are right now? Just give us a little bit of your story. We're interested. We want to know.
Oh, okay. Well, an actress talking about herself. Wow.
Yeah.
I was always a really shy kid. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood. So my parents tried to keep us as sheltered from that as possible. And because I was so shy and introverted, I turned to television. And I watched a lot of it and felt... even as a shy kid, there was some kind of excitement in it. I felt like there was something in me that wanted to do it. And I went to college and studied teaching because I was still too shy to ever do it. And in my early 20s, I decided to go to acting school. I applied to one, and that's the one who let me in. And that was it. I was like, well, if they accept me, then this is going to be it. So they did. And I started auditioning, and here I am.
That's pretty amazing because anybody who has, if anybody searched your name, they'd find you in several things on their Netflix, and not only Netflix, but you're on other networks as well. Your most recent role, I think, was in Batwoman, right, on the CW network.
Yeah, it's currently airing right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes on Wednesdays at 9. It's been such a joy for me. I play Renee Montoya, I played her before on Gotham.
That's what I was going to say. I thought you played her on Gotham as same character on Gotham. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is my second time around playing her, and she's just so inspiring. I think she was like the first gay Latina comic in 1992 or 91 or 92. And that was a time when a lot of people weren't writing about it, or if they were writing about it, or you saw it on television, it was always some kind of a victim or some sad story. And she is, for lack of a better word, she's a badass.
That's what I was just going to say.
That's the only word.
She's a badass powerhouse. She's smart. She's gorgeous. Yes. So I kind of fell in love with the character as well. And I wondered how you find playing these different characters impacts your own journey. Do you find you learn from the character, but then you're also bringing yourself forward too, aren't you, in some ways?
Yeah, they are. It's funny you say that because at the beginning of my career, I played a lot of victims and that sort of thing. And lately, they're these characters that are very empowering and inspiring and so confident in their own skin. Before this, I played Amanda on a show called Almost Family, and she was another powerhouse lesbian. She was so comfortable in her skin and the way she dressed and the way she moved. And there was something in me that had to come out to play this role or to play Renee Montoya, because I don't see myself as tough or a badass, but there has to be something in me that gets me there, because when I do my work, I'm an empath, and a lot of actors are able to, when they break down a scene, they set their intention. Well, what do I want in this scene? What do I want to get from this other person they're seeing? It's technical, and it's a great skill to have. It's one I do not. I've tried it. I just can't. If I'm in my head, I just can't do it. So sometimes being an empath can be a curse, but it's also a gift.
I bet.
Right?
Yes.
Especially in my work. So I will ask myself when I'm studying a scene, like, well, how would I feel, Victoria, in this situation? But also knowing my character. So I go in with feeling, because I'm a feeler. And so it's been amazing to realize that all these attributes that I see as positive ones in my characters, and I think that I don't have, it's like, oh wait, I do have that. Yeah. So they've been a gift to me, and so the past two characters I played are very close to my heart. I'm very attached to them and protective, and so I'm really grateful.
Yes. Well, I'm not surprised to hear you say that about the Renee Montoya character. I'm going back to that in my mind. But see, in my view, from the audience view, you are her. I think when the character means a lot to you and you so embody the character, it's hard to separate you from the character. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is I love the humility that you bring to your work and to your life, because from the outside world, I think people have an unrealistic view of what an actress or an artist such as yourself, what your life is really like, what the roles you play, what you're paid for those roles, how your process is in general. I thought people would love to hear that. But before we even get there, the funny thing that happened, when I was getting to know you, when you had contacted me, I was like, I know this name, and you signed it, your name, and I said, I'm gonna search her, and I go, oh, that's where I know her. I've seen her on Manifest, or I think it was actually Gotham. I like those stories. I love the CW network too, which usually surprises people that I like Arrow and Flash and all that. But I love the stories of overcoming, and I love the stories, and very often there's stories of family, of forgiveness, of justice, so that's what I always see as the themes. But anyway, as I was looking you up, I got so excited because we shared a birthday. And I go, and we were talking, and I go, Victoria, did you see? I can't believe this. We share a birthday. And you go, actually, that's not my birthday.
Don't believe everything you read online.
Right?
Yes, it's crazy. I don't know where that date came up or that year. Just randomly someone put it on Wikipedia.
Right, the year's not even right. You said, I forgot that part.
I mean, I guess I should be, it's a compliment, but they put me as much younger than I am, and just a random. What is February 15th? Is that
February
Aquarius?
14th? I think
14th.
It's Valentine's Day.
Okay, is that Aquarius though?
Yes,
Aquarius. Okay, yeah. I'm an Aries, so I'm fire. But yeah, you can't always. It's. They have other things on there. Like, I think there's one there. It's like the top 10 things of Victoria Cartagena, and most of it is not true. And so I have daughters, and they read that, and it's just like, but you have to pick your battles and just hope that.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your daughters are reading it and going, Mom, is this true? Right?
Yeah.
Is this true?
No, it's not true. Yeah. They're at that age where they're searching. They're 11 now. So Yeah, but
Yeah. Well, and I think you have to have it, and this is where it's already deepening in my mind, our conversation, and in my soul, because you have to have a certain sense of self and a certain confidence in who you really are, because stuff does get said,
right.
and stuff, things do get written, and it's not who you really are, and it's not even in these cases factual.
Right.
So I think it's
Exactly.
it's so important for you to, maintain yourself and your spiritual center, no matter what the internet says. So that has to
Exactly.
have been a part of your journey in some way.
Yeah, and I still struggle with it because I'm
Sure.
not very much on Instagram as much, but I have posted some pictures, and I never have the comments on. You know how you can just write comments on it, and I turn them off because I'm still sensitive to that. I feel
Of
if I
course.
post something, it's because I think the picture is beautiful or it's great, it has meaning, right? So I'm feeling good, and then I post it, and then someone can write something, and it will. I guess I'm not that strong enough it will shoot me down for a second. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course.
So,
Yeah.
or they'll write all these positive things. So you're like, sort of, it's just like, it has to be a balance. So I just post it. I feel good about it. Whoever sees it can see it. And that's it. So I feel a sense of control over that.
I think that's a great personal boundary. When you are a public figure, and I am in a very different way, by being a faith leader and a podcast host, and I go out and speaking in these various communities, and now I'm working more with Unity North Tampa. And when you are a little bit more of a public figure, people feel like they can have an opinion on everything you do and can say whatever they want about whatever you do, not realizing there is impact on you as a person, as a soul, and that it's not always appropriate to have public vocal opinions on the various things we're doing. So it is a definite part of the journey,
right?
And you, of course, in a much bigger way than myself, but I understand it is impactful to you and to your journey.
Yeah, and it's also when I look at it, there's a spiritual aspect to it too, because sometimes we've talked about triggers before, and it will trigger something, and it brings you back to ask it, like the importance of asking, is that true?
Yes.
Like, is this true? And remembering who you are, or even remembering the intention of why you put the picture out. Like but of course you are triggered. Or, well, I'm saying, of course, I am triggered at times, but sometimes it's almost like, it's almost a gift. Because I feel like I get a little bit stronger each time.
Yes, I think that's true. All of us, of course, this show is called Authentic Spiritual Journey. We are on this journey, and what bothers us a year ago may not today, because we've learned to to minimize our reactions and to be in command of our emotional nature. We get to a point spiritually where, yes, we do therapeutic work, but we also are doing the spiritual work where, as you're saying, we're observing ourselves. We're observing ourselves. We're observing our reactions, and we're saying, what got touched in me? Because they just said this, or they just did that. And, if you're a mom, you get to deal with that with kids as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a gift that I learned with you in our class and in the life coaching class, is really asking the questions, which were so important as an empath. Does this belong to me? It's like, it's really like, you really have to just like settle yourself sometimes and really, if you want to know, like what happened right before this, is this mine? Am I the one who's angry right now? Is it the other person? Or even when we talk about triggers, like, where's this coming from? Like, and just before being reactive, like really investigating. I feel like life is all about, for me, it has been for the past couple, about investigating.
Yes. Yes. And what you're talking about, I want to mention it. It's called carried feelings, right? If somebody else has a feeling or somebody else says something, if we take it on suddenly as ours, well, we're carrying their feelings as if they're our own. And so what you're describing is, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get clear and see, is this mine? And if it isn't, then we can let it go. maybe we breathe, maybe we meditate, maybe we put on a like chill playlist. Like I've got a couple of really chill playlists. Maybe I'll give them to Dave for the show notes. But we have to have ways of coming back to center. And, we see in our world right now, we have world leaders not able to do that. We see it in Hollywood every day. So in this show and on with all of us in our own lives, we're seeking to be examples of, we're trying to live a conscious life. You can do that as an actor. You can do it as an actress. You can do it as a producer. You can do it, you can do it. I was thinking of one of our last guests, Dave, Bobby Douthit, who plays pinball. She's a, world champion pinball player. And she's doing what we're doing, coming back to center, flowing in her work. It's like, this is what we're all trying to do.
And to have these tools, it's so great that you have your show and where you speak and giving people these tools, because for so many years I carried that because I didn't know. Yes. I didn't know. I thought that was all mine, and it was, So it's really important.
Yeah. Well, and your journey now. So I think you just wrapped a season, didn't you? Or you're part of the season?
My part of the season, yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so now do you get a little R&R? You get some downtime with your family for the holiday season?
I do now. And it's so what happens after a show, it's like you're a couple of weeks, you're off and you need that. And I need to allow myself to do that because sometimes as an actor, and I'm sure I'm not alone, and that when something has come to a close, you're already worried about the next gig. You know what I mean? Right. So right now, this time is my favorite time of the year, and I've been away for so long. I'm trying to remember that this is this time of season to sort of like regroup again, which I think the universe. It's funny because I feel that it's the universe is always trying to give me that gift as an empath, as someone who's an introvert who needs downtime. Sometimes I focus so much when I'm working, work, and studying my lines. And then it's like, okay, slow down. You need this rest. You know, you need to get centered, to get more centered or more focused. And then at the end of it, I come out like a little bit stronger and ready and prepared.
Yes. Well, and that was something I wanted to talk about too, because I think, from the outside world, you are successful. You couldn't have a worry in the world about, your next role. And I'm glad you're taking time for yourself, because I think, especially like you say, as an introvert and an empath, you're so sensitive to energy. I was just thinking, are these words new to some of our listeners? They may be. So empath just means, right, we're really sensitive to what's happening around us, and we pick it up. And I consider myself that as well. So I do, it's like, first of all, I want to affirm for you, yes, this is a great time of rest for you. And it's like, spiritually, I would say it's like your little Sabbath.
Right?
Your Sabbath, because when you are working, it is a very intense schedule. There's a lot that's expected of you, both mentally and physically. I mean, there's long shoots, there's all the memorization, there's, being away from your family. And I think the average person, we don't maybe think about that this is a part of your journey. And sometimes there are sacrifices you're having to make to do this kind of work.
Yeah. And you really, I really couldn't have done it alone, just to have the support of even my children that are understanding and seeing me go to work and do this for us, so that they can see that their mother's working and, living her dreams, to have my father or help out, step in and do all those things. But also at the same time, also remembering, because there are times when you're making those sacrifices that I forget that I'm in the blessing. Yes. Sometimes I forget that this is what I've asked for, and that I'm living, as they say, in an answered prayer.
Yes, absolutely.
And at that moment, it always sort of brings me back to gratitude in those moments where I forget sometimes.
Yes, beautiful. Well, that feels like a perfect place to stop for our first half. So thank you, friends, for joining us today. We're here with Victoria, and we will be back right after these brief messages. Hello, my name is Cynthia Alice Anderson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Thank you for joining me today. I am also the senior minister at Unity North Tampa, and in January, both my worlds are coming together in a powerful way. I'm going to be doing a Sunday morning series and Monday evening class on my book, Prosperity for You. Friends, I love to help people start the year off right by setting good sacred intentions and remembering what a powerful co-creator they are. We are going to be studying my book, this 4-week intensive series, to remind ourselves that as we change our thoughts, we change our world, and that in fact, we have the power to bring more good, more money, more love, more peace even into our lives and in the world. Prosperity for You begins on Monday, January 10th. And to register for that course, please go to my website, CynthiaAliceAnderson.com. Click on the Classes and Retreats tab, and you will be able to go and book that class where it says Book Now. As you book now, you'll receive all the information you need to join us on Monday, January 10th at 7 p.m. I also hope to see you, or would love to have you watch online at Unity North Tampa on Sunday morning, January 9th at 11 a.m. I'm so thrilled to be bringing you this course, dear friend, and am happy to have you join us online or in person. The course on January 10th is online only. Go to CynthiaAliceAnderson.com for more information and to register for Prosperity for You, and I will see you in person at Unity North Tampa on Sunday, January 9th. Thank you so much for being with me today, dear friend, and blessings on the journey. And welcome back. We're so glad you're with us today. We've been talking with Victoria the first half, and she's here again, second half. And what a blessing to get to know this talented woman. And Dave is actually very aware of Victoria's work and was sharing with me kind of when he fell in love with her work. So Dave, share a little bit about that if you don't mind starting us out.
I didn't want to fanboy too bad, over the break or whatever. But I mean, obviously, you're so well known for Gotham, which is that's DC universe. That has some really deep roots. But I gotta tell you, when I became like a Cartagena fan was in Manifest, and the character you played in Manifest was such a complicated situation, and that whole storyline, and I don't want to get too like spoiler for anybody, especially knowing how popular Manifest has become in well, I guess it's not syndication anymore; it's Netflix and streaming. But I thought that your performance in that was sublime, and the situation that your character was in, the emotion, the pain, the tightrope you had to walk of like living a new life and having to move on, and yet now these people are back in your life, and how are you the friend but also the wife? And I just wanted to say that I thought that was fantastic. I know Gotham takes a lot of oxygen, in the room, but I really loved you on Manifest. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you. That means a lot. That show came at a time in my life where I just feel like all of it, the story, the spiritual aspect of it, the people involved in it all came at a moment where I was really finding myself in my own spiritual shoes. So that character and what she went through really was a journey for me as an actor, as a person, again, putting yourself into those shoes and really like, having someone you love come back. But yeah, well, I don't think that's a spoiler. I think
that's the premise of the show.
The premise of the show. So yeah, it was a really a great experience and one that I always look back with a lot of joy and gratitude. Because I feel like it actually, even though a lot of people know Gotham, I was only on there briefly and didn't work again for several years. And so I always,
really?
yeah, there was like I think like 3 years where I really didn't work consistently, and Manifest sort of was that coming back for me. Go to, so to,
beautiful.
Wow.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think anybody who watches Manifest, and if you haven't, I encourage you to watch it. I mean, it's a fun show, but for those of us who kind of, think and exist in the spiritual, universal plane, the existential questions it asks, and it allows you to kind of put yourself like into the situation, and you ask yourself, what would I do? And that's what I found myself with Lourdes, right? The name of the character is, what would I do in that situation? How would I act? And you mentioned in part one how you're an empath, and I think that shines brilliantly in the Lourdes character. I think it really, really does.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I just had to say it. I said, now I'll go back to be the producer, but I just had to say it.
No, Dave, I'm
so
glad you did. We always love to hear from you. And I think it's real important for somebody like Victoria to hear how that touches her, because, the commitment and the level of energy it takes to do what you do, Victoria. It's like, because everybody has an opinion, you don't always get to really hear and take in when it's something that meaningful. And that was the other reason I wanted to have you on the show. It's like, we want to lift you up and say, hey, well done. And we're glad we get to support your spiritual aspects of your journey, because that also impacts, the work that you do every day. I mean, I feel, our spiritual journey, right? I mean, so talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. Like, how does your spiritual journey really impact? I mean, certainly I know it's very important to you.
Right. Well, first of all, thank you for saying that, because I always aspire to uplift when I'm working. And that starts even before I get onto the set. And I always want to connect. And so before, when I started out as an actor, it was to be famous, to get the shows. And then after 2017, I always say 2018, that's when Manifest came out. I went through the dark night of the soul right through there. And that was the first gift I got. So Manifest went, right? And so
beautiful.
Now it's changed. It's changed. I know that this is more than just being on TV and, that sort of glamorous life, and so I every time I go to work, I pray up. I pray up, because I know that there's a reason I'm doing this. So please use me to uplift. But in that uplifting, I in return get uplifted. My intention is to put it simply, or people may find it cheesy, but it is to love, and in that to be loved, and in that loving, I get it in return. So, and I go to set, and I want to speak with the other actors in the room before we go out there. And there's this sort of like magic that happens, because I feel in those moments, it's something bigger than us in the room. And that may sound people like, but this is a comic book show, but it isn't. It's about connection. And I'll share a story with you. I'll try to keep it short, but this is an example of like, I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question, did I?
No, go ahead. Go. This is perfect.
Oh, okay. So it was 2 weeks ago. I was wrapping up, and I was a little bit sad about that, and a little bit down. Meanwhile, I still have a beautiful episode, a great, empowering episode for my character. And I'm sitting in my trailer, and I'm sad, and I'm thinking about the next job. So really, I'm not being present, and I'm a little depressed, right? So I sat there, and I just had a class with you where you taught me to meditate for 2 minutes with a mantra.
Oh, yes.
Right. So I sat there in my trailer waiting, and I started to say peace over and over again. And what happened after that is that I didn't come to a place of joy, which I was waiting for. I wanted to be at a place of joy so that I could uplift and feel uplifted, all those things. But it stopped that spiral. So after I sat there, I was like, oh, God, just give me a sign. I don't know what my sign, I need a sign, but if you could give me a sign, I know I ask you for signs all the time, but if you could send me one. Anyway, so I go to my trailer, And this is the part about connecting. So, I mean, I go to the green room while they're setting up the lights, and one of the actresses is there, and I say, "Hey, how you doing?" And it's really early. It was like a Monday. It was like 6 or 7. She's like, "Oh, I'm tired. Woke up at 5." She asked me what time I woke up. I said, "Oh, 3." She goes, "Why are you up at 3 a.m.?" I was like, "Oh, I was just, I was doing my spiritual practice." And so we got to talking, and she says, so, what is your spiritual practice? And why do you do it? And she started saying, but, I also have a spiritual practice, but it's hard for me to wake up in the mornings. And I told her, well, and she asked me how I do it. And I said, well, I feel like I it's not that I don't have a choice. It just starts my day. Like I need to journal. I need to meditate. I need to affirm myself, because sometimes I don't have the confidence. Sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And so if I just roll out of bed, I'm not setting myself up for success, really. So
you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And she goes, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I do the same thing. I also have devotionals." And I was like, "Oh, I do devotion. I do a devotional as well." So I journal, I pray, I read my devotionals, and I affirm and meditate. So so I said to her, "Oh, what's the devotional you use?" And she goes, "Jesus Calling." And I was like, "Oh, what? I also do Jesus Calling." Now, I know Jesus Calling is a popular devotional, but there's so many devotionals. And I found that one.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, I found that one at the library because I was bored and I thought, and then I ended up buying it. And so we're sitting there, and she also started to ask me, what brought me to my spiritual practice to begin with. And I told her, like I said, about the dark night, and how someone had recommended a book. I read it and it changed my life. And she says, "So what's the book?" And I was like, "Oh, A Return to Love." And she looked at me wide-eyed, and she grabs her backpack and she pulls out a copy of the book. And she says, "This is my favorite book. It was tattered. It was like written in." And so we're sitting there again, like, oh my God. And so another actress walks in, and she overhears us talking about where to buy, spiritual books. And she goes, "Oh, you can buy it here. I bought my devotional." So I say, "Well, what devotional do you have?" She goes, "Jesus Calling." So we're sitting there like, oh my God, it gets better. And and she says, sometimes I screenshot, and it was on November 9th. She goes, "I screenshot today." And I said, "So did I." And then we look over, and the other actress is like, "So did I." And the whole November 9th was about, having faith and not being scared and all those things. So we're screaming, teary-eyed. And so we all hug, and the one actress, I keep saying the one actress because I don't want to say their names, but
I understand.
So she came over, and she says, she's teary, and she said, "You know what? This morning I prayed to God to give me a sign." And I was like, I just prayed in my trailer for a sign. And we look over at the other actress. She goes, "I said the same thing last night." So in that moment, I was trying to figure out, well, what does this mean? First of all, it means that we got our sign, that everything's going to be okay. But but the bigger thing is is the connection I was telling you about. The three of us, you have these two beautiful actresses who are so talented and at the top of their career, yet they're a little bit sad and needing a sign as well. And here we come together to share our vulnerability, to share our story. When you invited me on the show, you said, just share your story. You don't know who that can impact. We're not trying to do anything. And here they were sharing their vulnerability. And we'd never had this conversation before. It's my last week, but at that moment it happened, and we uplifted each other. And it was the most magical day on set. We were up at 3 and 4, and it was a long day, and it didn't matter. And we knew it, and we all knew that was a special moment. And even days later, it's like, hey, I still can't forget that. But anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but I just had this.
No, I think that's perfect. I think that's perfect. Well, and what a beautiful story. And it does sound like, what I love to call divine order. It's when all those things are coming together, and you cannot miss that this is, more than a coincidence. This is a divine appointment. This is a serendipitous moment where you're connected. The universe is intimately engaged, in your process. And I think because of so much of what we hear on the news, in our, on our media as we scroll, that we're so separate, and somebody thinks this and we think that. the voices in general in pop culture are really dividing. But the truth is, all of us are human, needing this spiritual connection. And so I think just making room in our lives is really important for that, for that connection to happen.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's what happened between you two. The connection was bigger than, it was so big you couldn't miss it. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget that day.
Yeah. Yeah. That I bet they won't either.
Oh, yeah.
And, we're all on this journey we call life. Again, it doesn't matter what our career may be. Without this spiritual connection, we can feel lost. We can feel depressed. We can feel just that life, it doesn't make sense and doesn't matter. But with a spiritual journey, you're consistently reminding yourself of the value you have, the value you are to the universe itself. And then as these, moments happen, we remember, wow, the universe is intimately engaged with me and my journey. Like the universe is actually interested.
Mm-hmm.
The universe is supporting.
Mm-hmm.
And that as I set these intentions, I'm making way for the universe to answer. And I think that's very, very important, especially in the holiday season, because they can be isolating. If you don't have a family, you're living alone in the city, or you're not traveling because of fears around COVID, whatever it may be, this can be a very isolating time. So I think you saying that story is so important for a number of reasons. One, it's okay to ask for a sign. As a matter of fact, I encourage it because it helps us open our eyes, because the signs are always there, right? Yeah. So the signs are there. We're usually just not open to seeing it. So as we really open our hearts and expand into our souls and become open to this, it's like Spirit brings a gift here, Spirit brings a gift here. And that sense of connection, I mean, like you say, you'll never forget that. And so it creates something very special inside of you. It's like there's this sacred space that you get to go back to now every time. And when you think about those actresses, that is what's going to be in your heart, right? It's not about, even though the work is great, it's about that.
Yep.
Because that's what really matters, right?
Exactly.
And then the work becomes like just your expression in the world, but it's not who you are.
Right.
Who you are is this spiritual self. And I am so happy you got to have that experience and that you all did. Sounds like it was a gift. And then you left the set right after that, didn't you? Or next day?
The next day, yeah.
Yeah.
That was like the little, the little button.
Yeah, as a musician, I do a lot of musical theater work, and as I think back to all of my experiences, what I recall isn't the time actually playing, in the pit, isn't the time, doing the show. It's the relationships that happen, the backstage, the lunch, during the doubles, and that's really the relationships that get cultivated there in the experience. That's what I take. Is it? I would imagine. Is it kind of the same for you? With fellow actors and actresses, is that you don't remember actually doing the thing that's going to get captured, but all of the in between times. That's what you walk away with.
All the in between, and you're constantly learning. They're all teachers. There have been actors that I've worked with that have showed me what I wanted. In my career.
Yes.
There have been,
I bet.
Yeah. There have been actors who have mentioned a book that has changed my life or something. And then we never see each other again, but their impact is amazing, and again, it's the intention, but that's what I look for when I go to work now. I look to connect. I look to learn. And it all just, it's beautiful how the universe does deliver when your eyes are open, right? And so that experience just reinforced, keep asking. Again, so when I'm trying to figure out my feelings, investigating and asking myself that, but if I need a little divine intervention or something from the universe or spirit, just ask and it will come. You keep your eyes peeled, as you say, and you're like, oh. And sometimes I laugh out loud at some of the signs I get. I'm like, and they're and they're so much fun. I love getting signs.
Yes. Well, the way I like to think of our, relationship with the universe is that it is dynamic, it is active, and some often challenging. And there have been times I felt on the edge of my seat and thought, this cannot get any more exhilarating. Can I handle this? And yet, yes, the answer is, of course, yes, I can. And then the universe moves us forward again, and we get used to this new way of being, and we get moved forward again. And that's why, we call this a journey, because it does have its ups and downs. But as we continue to stay focused on the universe, focused on our holy nature, as we continue to set our intentions, and moving forward with faith and trying to bring grace and love, into all of our communications, it's amazing how we are provided for by the universe, by God himself, herself, and that so many of the ways we're supported are beyond what our even human minds can fathom. That there's a plan, there's a direction, and the more we seek that daily, I think the more we walk into it with more ease and grace, right? And your stories today have certainly been a part of that. And I realized I didn't ask you. I thought you grew up in Philly, and I wondered how your growing up experience impacted your career, you and your spiritual journey, because when we were, first talking, you said you were kind of introverted in school, but what was your growing up like?
It's so funny. Yeah, I was really shy, but I was the oldest of my cousins. So in Latin families, our cousins are like our siblings. We live like down the block. Right. So there are about 6 of us. And one of my brother's older, but he's 6 years older. So there's a big age gap. So I was the oldest in that cluster. And I almost get teary. They saw me. Those kids saw me and allowed me to be myself and funny. And they encouraged what I couldn't say and do, because I was funny. I was a funny kid, just not in front of certain people. And they lifted me up to the point where I was at 13, asked my mother if I could go to an acting class. And she was like, you? And I was like, yeah. And I never invited anyone but my cousins. And it was because of their laughing and wanting to play these crazy games that I would play that encouraged me. And to this day, they're still my biggest cheerleaders. And I think having that and that support really developed that sort of acting thing inside of me that was there.
I think that's so true. Beautiful, beautiful. And, I'm just thinking too, with you as a mom, you really know what your girls are going to need in their journey. You're going to, because you do have a extended family that's supportive. I think that's going to be a wonderful continuation, of your lineage, supporting their growth and development. And of course, we're here to support you spiritually on the journey. And we're proud and happy to be able to, and it's always great to talk to you, Vic, and it's a pleasure and a blessing. And we're honored that you listen to the show, and I'm honored to work with you. And anyway, we hope you and your family have a beautiful holiday season. And thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I consider you one of my teachers as well. And it's really been an honor and so great meeting you, Dave. And you guys have an amazing holiday. I'll be thinking of you.
Okay. Thanks for joining us today on The Journey, dear friends. Blessings on the journey and happy holidays.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2021, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.